Welcome back to the channel, welcome back to me. I've just been on a big holiday over in Europe and had such an amazing time. I'll even throw some of my favorite clips into this video here so you can also check out what I've been up to over the last couple of weeks. I'm ready to enjoy tennis again, and I hope you are too, because I've got a heap of videos ready to go and for you to enjoy, and hopefully we'll learn some more tennis together. Geez, I nailed that intro too. I feel like I'm getting better at this. Stay tuned, let's get into it. So in today's episode, we're going to be taking a little look at those mid-court balls and how to strike them properly with conviction and attack coming forward to the net, and not putting so much pressure on yourself to finish off those points straight away from the mid-court. Let's get into it. Now let's just say you've got your mid-court ball sitting here in the middle of the court waiting to be spanked. Now what do? Well, here's a couple of first pointers. Set yourself up for the win. Now what I mean by this is take your time to set yourself up in the best possible position. So using those little steps, so I call them squeaky steps with my players, so making sure that you use those little steps to adjust your positioning. If you're running at it flat chat, and I see a lot of beginners or intermediate players especially, they'll run straight into the ball. And by the time they get to the ball is directly in front of them and they're jammed up. They can't have a long, fluid, free swing. You wanna make sure you're positioning yourself so you're beside the ball. You don't wanna be directly behind it. I know a lot of coaches say get behind the ball. What they mean by this is get your weight behind your shot. Don't get directly behind the ball with your body. Get your racket behind the ball. That's what they mean by this. Making sure you're positioning yourself. My goodness, I go over to Europe and now I can't speak English. Please help. So you want to position yourself so your racket and your body weight can be behind your shot and get your energy into the ball. That leads me into the next big point here, is loading. Once you've moved accordingly and you've positioned yourself in a good position to the ball, now you need to load. Feet should be apart so you can get down low with your knees and then drive through the ball. And loading, part of the loading I did forget to mention just now, is turning the unit. You might hear a lot of coaches say this, the unit turn, which is basically turning your shoulders. So instead of facing chest to the court, I'm turning my chest and now facing to the side. This way I can drive through with my hips and rotate into my shot. Now this is where you need to be careful. Don't over rotate. If you over rotate, the easiest way to tell is if your chest is now facing to the other side. So you've started facing this way. If your chest turns all the way around and faces to the opposite side now, then you've over rotated. The easiest way to think about it, and I tell my students, is load and then release and have your chest facing open to the court or the direction where you want to hit the ball. So for example, if I wanted to hit directly straight to you, the audience, I'm going to make sure I load and open up my chest to face to you. If I start facing any further around, then I've over rotated, and instead of hitting through the ball, I like to use this as a description when I'm talking about hitting through your shot. Think about it like punching. And when you hit your shot, you want to punch straight through the line of the ball. If you're hitting your shot and coming across, your body weight going to the side, you're no longer hitting through the ball, you're grazing the ball. You're not going through. Remember, you want to punch through your shot, not graze it and put no energy into your shot. Use momentum, use power through your shot. That's what we're working on. Now here are a couple of very important things to note with your wrist and how much spin you're using. Now, if it's a mid-court ball sitting, let's say, above your belly button and definitely above the net and higher, okay, this is where you can take a couple of options here. If the ball's really high above your head, let it come down into a little bit more of a comfort zone so you can strike through. Now, this is very important to note. Whenever you're hitting high balls, you are not hitting down, so you're not facing your strings down to the ground and hitting in a downward swing path. You do this and you're definitely going to find that you hit the net, and if it does happen to go over the net, it's going to land very short in the opposite side of the court, which then allows, if your opponent is in a good position, your opponent to move forward and start maybe attacking on your short ball. You want to try and keep the balls a little bit deeper, that way it keeps them or your opponent on the back foot. So instead of striking and going down on your swing, which is very commonly done in a lot of beginners and intermediates, some advanced players even do it too, you want to make sure that you're striking in a very straight and still upward swing path. So instead of getting right down low, because you don't need to put a lot of spin on this one, you can if you want to, but I find hitting the ball flatter and more through the court is a more aggressive stroke, let's put it that way. So you want to make sure that you're starting maybe still just below the ball if it's up here, and then swinging up to the ball and straight through all the way to the end, okay? Finishing still high, not finishing down, because that would have means that you're swinging in a downward swing path and going into the net. Don't do that. Now, if the ball is lower, okay, so let's just say it's below chest, above belly, okay, or waist. What you want to make sure that you're doing here is you're adding a little bit of spin on with your wrist and with your swing path low to high. That way you still have a little bit of margin while you're going over the net and then still within the baseline. So you're just swinging a little bit more under and up. Okay, and you're still increasing your racket head speed here. This is part of everything. Now this goes for forehand and backhand. I should have mentioned that at the beginning. All of the strokes, what I'm telling you here, apply for both forehand and for backhand. If that ball is lower, so let's say it's below waist now, anywhere further below waist, this is where you have to use your spin and you got to get low. So this is where your base is incredibly wide here. The wider, the easier it is going to be for you to get low. And then what you're going to make sure that you do with your wrist is you let that racket drop below the line of the ball so that when you get to the ball, you can rip it with all your might so you can get it to go more loop over the net, okay? This way you have good margin over the net height, and then you've got plenty of spin by ripping at the wrist to get it to go down before the baseline. My little rhyme that I use with the kids is spin makes the ball go in. So you want to make sure you're ripping that ball with as much spin as you possibly can to make it dip back in. Now that we've spoken about how to hit the shot, let's talk about where you should be hitting that shot for your best percentage or highest percentage of chance of getting it in. So we've got high percentage and low percentage. Now, obviously the low percentage is going to be down the line. The reason for this is the court is shorter. If you take a measuring tape and measure straight down the line, that is the shortest angle of the court. If you measure from corner to corner, diagonally, like a TV, because it's in a rectangular shape, you're going to find that it's much longer. So going cross court is always your better option in terms of space to hit it into. But this is where it can also get dangerous, because if you hit it into their forehand side by going in the safe area of cross court, forehand is generally the stronger shot of most players. So you want to make sure that you can put it into their backhand side, which is typically the weaker side, but you don't want to go too close to the line. So you want to use your margins here. So if you're having to go down the line to hit it into your opponent's backhand, you want to make sure that you're using good margin, so height over the net. So like I mentioned before with the spins, you want to get a little bit more rip so you get more shape over the net, and you want to make sure you got plenty of spin on it to make sure it dips back down into that backhand corner more, so it makes it a little bit trickier for your opponent. There are versatile ways of doing this as well. You don't have to rip it as powerfully as you can. It's actually sometimes safer and a better option to use slice and chip that ball over into the backhand side so it can spin away from them a little bit. You don't want to be too tricky with it because then you can make it too high risk. But you can chip it so the ball stays lower. That way your opponent then has to hit the ball up, so then you can be at the net for easy pickings to put it away unless they've made an extremely good lob. Then get your smash ready. Now when you are hitting this shot, you want to make sure you're playing with conviction. This is the most important part of playing your approach shot and volleys. I see a lot of players play very aggressively with power, with racket head speed from the baseline. But then as soon as they get forward, they get a little tentative or cautious and play with fear, or play of, what's the saying, play not to lose, instead of playing to win, playing to hit the ball. I see a lot of players, they'll come in to play their approach shot and then play their volleys, and they'll play very tentatively, trying not to miss. So they'll be more guiding the ball rather than hitting at the ball. Now don't get me wrong, you still want to play with your margins like I just explained, but you want to make sure you hit it to the direction and the vision that you have of where you want it to go. If you just push that ball into that spot, your opponent's going to have easy pickings to get it to go past you or over you. So make sure you hit all your shots in tennis with conviction. Whether you miss or you make your shot, learn from the pros. They'll always hit with conviction. They'll never play it safe. They always, even on match points, I see the professionals, they're still going hard, they're not holding back. Sometimes they'll play a little bit safer and use more margins. You'll see a little bit more with the cross courts come in because that's the safer play, but they'll still hit their shots with conviction. They're not going to hold back and slow down their racket head speed. You want to make sure that you're always increasing your racket head speed, especially in those crucial pressure points, to keep good margin over the net and good spin to dip it back in again. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. I really hope you got something out of it. And please hit me up on Instagram and show me some videos of how you're doing with your approach shots. That way we can work on it together and help you to improve. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please don't forget to like and subscribe so I can catch you in the next episode. Cheers.